Good evening and welcome to Talking Songs with me, Rowland Jones. How are we all doing out there? It's gloriously sunny here in Manchester at the moment. Oh no, it's suddenly got cloudy. But it has been gloriously sunny in Manchester, which is a nice thing to say because it isn't always like that. So what's been happening in the world? Anything exciting to tell me? No. Oh well. So, on to music. What have I got to report? I don't think I've got very much to report at the moment, but I'm still delighted that my most recent album has been nominated in the live CD category in the Independent Blues Awards. So I'm still smirking a little bit about that. I have no idea who nominated it, which is it shows it's not it wasn't a scam. But yeah. And I've got lots of new exciting people coming up in the near future, which I'll tell you more about when they're all confirmed. But in the meantime, this is gigs are starting. Well, that's the big news, really. I don't know what it's like wherever you guys are. I've done 2 or 3 gigs over the last month or so. Also did one over in Bingley in a lovely little wine bar over there called Martinez. It wasn't a massive turnout because there was football on, and they don't have football TV screens on there, and it was nice weather, so people were outside. But it was a lovely atmosphere, so I do recommend Martinez in Bingley. So this is a song. I stole the first line, I'll be honest. But I can't even remember what I stole it from. I know it was a Paul Simon song, and I think it was originally There's a Plane in the Distance, so I quite like the phrasing of it, but I've changed it to There's a Train in the Distance. So, but I don't think it'd be chasing me for the royalties. No royalties to pick up, I don't think. So this is called Seems Like Yesterday. There's a train in the distance, police car in the streets, the noise of the city, the places where you used to meet. And just when you thought it was finished, just when you thought it was through, things come back to you, the places that you knew, and it all seems like yesterday. Seems like yesterday. The taxi rank on the corner, the cinema in the mall, the pizza place and the wine bar. You remember it all. And just when you thought it was finished, just when you thought it was through, the things come back to you, the places that you knew, and it all seems like yesterday. Seems like yesterday. Seems like yesterday. Seems like yesterday. Late nights just watching TV, lazy afternoons in bed, early morning kisses, all those things that you said. And just when you thought it was finished, just when you thought it was through, things come back to you, the places that you knew, and it all seems like yesterday. Seems like yesterday. Seems like yesterday. Seems like yesterday. Dropping a bit of the E minor ninth in there, one of my favourite chords. And so, well, joining me this evening, I have Mr. Hugh Blaza. Where are you, Hugh? Talk to me. Where are you? You're there. Good evening.
Yeah, here I am.
Good evening and welcome to Talking Songs.
Yeah, nice song. I like a nice E minor 9 every now and then.
I think it's part of our heritage from.
I think probably is. Yeah.
From Mickey Baker.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know who Mickey Baker is, Mickey Baker was an American jazz guitar player who, in the 60s, I think the book was written. I certainly bought it in the 60s. Was called Mickey Baker's Jazz Guitar, and the first 8 pages were fascinating. I don't think I ever got beyond that, actually, but I picked up a few chords en route. What about you, Hugh?
Yeah, about the same. Yeah. I think I bought it. I was given it, actually. Somebody gave it me for my 21st birthday.
Right.
My life was never the same again.
Your fingers were never the same again.
Yeah, partly because of Mickey Baker, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that there were certain things that... because when I first got it in the 60s, I mean, you know, we were listening to Peter, Paul and Mary's. It didn't help me very much. And... I kind of left it to one side, and then some 20 odd years later, I started playing sort of slightly jazzy blues and went back to the book, and actually found that I could actually stretch to some of the chords which I couldn't do when I was only 16.
Interesting.
So that was quite a revelation. But anyway, enough about my fingers.
Yeah.
What about you? When did it all start for you with guitars and music and everything?
Well, there's a photograph of me with my parents when I was about 9 years old.
Yeah.
Out on the downs near where we used to live, in Berkshire, and I'm holding a tennis racket like that.
Excellent.
So I don't know, I have no idea who I was listening to at the time, because at that age, I don't think the Beatles had quite arrived on the scene. But there were things like Lonnie Donegan and Pat Boone, and I had been listening to music, even though my dad was completely classical music orientated.
Oh,
my mum used to listen to Radio 2 or whatever was the Lights
program.
Yeah,
Lights program. It was
I can remember listening to Family Favourites on a Sunday morning, and so I heard all that stuff.
There'll be people all over the country switching off at this point because they've got no idea.
No idea what we're talking about. That. Okay, well.
Were there 27-way family favourites? Do you remember that? They used to go to BFPO 29 in Berlin or whatever it was.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're moving rapidly on from that to try and catch up.
Giant leap.
So it was, I mean, like so many people of our age, sort of 1962, I can remember, or 63, was it, when She Loves You came on the radio for the first time? It just, I mean, I was only young. I was 10 or 11, and it just sort of brought me up with a complete shock. I mean, it was just so new and so fresh, and that was it. I was sold. But it took me a few more years before I was given a guitar, and I was given a Tatra Classic, which I think many of us used to have probably.
Gosh, yes.
Which was a classical guitar, made in the Czech Republic somewhere. In fact, it wasn't the Czech Republic then; it was Czechoslovakia, wasn't it?
Czechoslovakia then, yeah. Wow.
And so
I remember those, yeah.
And so I was given a Tatra Classic with a songbook. So the first song I ever learnt was "The Streets of Laredo" out of that songbook. All dressed in white linen and cold as the clay.
It's always either that or House of the Rising Sun, in my experience. When I talk to people.
Well, I found that rather difficult, House of the Rising. I mean, if you actually try and play it like they do on the record, it's not easy. Anyway, so I rapidly moved on to the Leonard Cohen songbook and learned quite a lot of Leonard Cohen songs, all of which I've probably forgotten now. But it was a great way of learning finger picking and and then through the usual thing. I'll tell you who I did. I mean, everybody's into Bob Dylan at the time, of course, and that was the song. That was the person whose songs you heard covered in all the folk clubs, which is where I first started going when I was allowed out and playing it even.
Yeah.
But I was. God, this is heresy, but I was never a massive Bob Dylan fan.
Me neither.
I much preferred Roy Harper, who was from your neck of the woods originally, I think.
Yeah.
But Roy Harper was a sort of real. He was a complete pothead.
He was
and a troubadour, but he wrote these wonderful, and very beautiful in many cases songs.
Yeah.
And I was completely transfixed by Roy Harper for several years, and learnt a lot of his songs again.
Yeah.
Some of which I can remember how to play, but not many. Yeah. So
who else was there around that era that you liked?
So the Roy Harper, and then Joni Mitchell, and it's 50 years to the day
50
that Blue
years
was,
of Blue, isn't it? Yeah.
So we ought to recognise that really, because that was such a wonderful album. Although I knew her previous albums, particularly the first one.
Well, that was the third, wasn't it? I think
it was the fourth actually, because you had Songs to a Seagull, you had Clouds, Ladies of the Canyon.
Clouds. Yeah.
And then Blue was the fourth album. Yeah. And
beautiful stuff.
And it was beautiful stuff.
I remember going to the Isle of Wight there that Dylan was playing, and around that time, James Taylor, Cat Stevens, and there was another, I can't remember who the third one was, but the headline in Melody Maker was "The Bedsitter Kings Tour Britain," because that was the image of them, wasn't it? Yeah. Sad people sat at home listening to sad records.
Yeah, pouring their hearts out to the sound holes on their knee. Remember that one? Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want to give us a tune? What do you want to start with?
Well, I'm going to go back to just as far as Mickey Baker, because that was. Excellent. I mean, this is several years on from Roy Harper and Joni Mitchell. Yeah. Although Joni Mitchell's fairly jazzy.
Yes, she was.
But by the time I'd gone through Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young, and arrived at Steely Dan, my ears were getting sort of interested in squelchy chords, as I call them, and so the arrival of the Mickey Baker songbook, which had all these squelchy chords in them, which I hadn't really known how to play at all, was a bit of an eye opener. And I wrote this song, which I've played ever since, on and off, and it's one of my songs that I like. One of the songs that am I allowed to say most proud of? Yeah, I think I'm proud of it. It has a certain naivety, but it's got all these lovely squelchy chords in, and it tells a story. And I like stories in songs, and so or I like painting pictures, and the picture that this one is intended to paint is of Paris in the summer, because I've been hitchhiking around Paris, as you did, hitchhiking around Europe as you did in those days, and ended up in Paris, and in the middle of August. It was incredibly hot, but all human life was there. And so this song is called "Keep the Change," and it's meant to evoke life in Paris, if you like. Yeah,
excellent.
And it goes like this. Guess what? He's done it again. Out of the door, no one knows what for, and she's holding the baby. He'll be back in a while. The old apologetic smile, he'll say it was just the heat that got me. Because the city is bad, but in the summer it's mad, and they're dying on their feet. Down in the street, down in the heat. Well, I could watch girls go by long after the sun goes down over this crazy town at last. It's the occasional smile that flutters and flies. It seems like high romance, but it's only that way when you sit in cafes, makes these long hard nights a trance. Some imaginary dance, some imaginary dance. So I sit and watch the world go by. From the shade makes sense, the heat just makes folks tense and bitchy. You're a bad loser, you're a no good boozer, I heard her say. We can keep living this way, let's call it a day. She sweeps her bag off the bar and gets into her car, drives away. Make it a double this time, he says, and keep the change. You can keep the change, man.
Great. Love it.
I
like that, the flattened ninth on the bottom end of the chord on that. What was it? A D13th with a flattened ninth on the bass. I love that. I just love all those voicings. They're just beautiful. But they automatically send you to a sort of a bossery place, don't they?
Well, I also whenever I played it with a band, the drummer said, "Oh, it's a bossa." I said, "No, it's kind of altered bossa, but it's not actually a bossa."
Yeah, it's not a pure bossa, is it?
So that means you got to listen to the bloody thing, which is drummers sometimes do, you know. In fairness.
Oh, no drummer jokes. We must avoid those. There are too many of them.
Yeah,
and too many of them seem to be true. Anyway, so you're talking about stories in songs. Is that your starting point for songwriting?
Not always. No. I mean, sort of painting an image or trying to capture a mood, I suppose. I write far too many songs about relationships, you know, the way people operate with each other. So I do write a lot of songs along those lines, but I prefer the ones that tell a story. And if the story is invented, made up, then so much the better, because you can go into that slightly altered reality or altered state when you're playing it and singing it. So it's like telling a short story. In a way.
Yeah. It's quite. We were you mentioned briefly, Joni Mitchell before. Obviously, it's very much in the news at the moment, and they played a clip of one of the tracks on it today. And I was saying to Leslie, it's quite interesting how she can tell stories and use very ordinary words, conversational words, and yet they still sound lyrical. And the line was, he bought her a washing machine and a coffee percolator. Yeah. And you think, if I sat down and I wrote that, I think, nah, I can't get away with that. It won't work. It won't, you know. But she doesn't get away with it. She does it, and it sounds beautiful.
She does. Yeah, she's a genius. I mean, it's an overused word, but I think she is a genius. Yeah, she's still going. She's still there. Yeah.
But it's funny this thing about the fact that a lot of the time she's not that keen to actually perform. She just wants to spend her time painting.
Well, like Captain Beefheart. I mean, he gave up the music, didn't he, and concentrated on painting.
On sculpture as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think her voice is pretty shot, and she was very ill for several years.
Well, she had polio when she was a kid, didn't she?
Yeah, but no, more recently she had some sort of weird disease which really debilitated her, and she heavy smoker. She always used to smoke. Very heavily. So.
Just a quick aside about you mentioned the Good Captain. I actually had a conversation with the Captain Beefheart.
Wow.
And the conversation went like this. We were playing in the Speakeasy in London, and we were doing the sound check, and somebody said, "Have you seen who's sitting over there?" Bloody hell, it's Tom Van Vliet. And then we did the gig, and so by the time we were actually doing the get out, must have been about like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was still there. And but the thing with that Speakeasy is that the get in was the main door, so you had to get all your gear out that way. So we had all the flight cases and all that sort of stuff there. And as he was stepping over them, he turned to me and said, "Nice band."
All right.
And I said, "Thank you."
Yeah.
So that was my entire conversation with Don Van Vliet.
Well, if you're only going to have one conversation with Don Van Vliet, then that's a good enough one, isn't it?
It's a claim to fame, but a very small one.
Yeah. Well, I saw him at Nebworth when he was supporting.
Right.
I think it was the Allman Brothers, Nebworth,
Right.
and he was on that bill. It may have been Pink Floyd. No, I think it was the Allman Brothers one.
Yeah.
And it just did my head in. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And immediately after he'd finished, the Steve Miller Band came on, and it was like balm. It was just so soothing to hear some nice, cool cruising blues after this complete mayhem that the Magic Band had been playing.
I saw him a couple of times at Free Trade Hall, and it was zany. Did you ever hear the album? Because his band recorded under the name Mallard, and I think they recorded one album.
Yes,
which was quite different.
I can't remember. I kind of remember it, and I remember them all. Actually, I listened to Safe as Milk the other day, and I really enjoyed it.
I think it's a lovely album.
Ry Cooder's on that, and he's just fantastic. But,
as he always is.
Yeah.
I think that's another sort of personal experience that we share is a love of Ry Cooder.
Ry Cooder, yeah,
amazing player.
Yeah.
Who else do you rate?
Well, I shouldn't appear anywhere without talking about music without mentioning Little Feat and Lowell George, who completely bowled me over when somebody gave me Dixie Chicken. He said it's a mate of mine who'd been in California and he brought Dixie Chicken back. So I think you might like this. I was just transported by that. Just a wonderful album.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I went backwards. And the first album I don't know so well. I know it, but I don't know it so well. But the one that I just wore out was Sailing Shoes.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful album.
Last Record album for me is still one of my
favorites. Well, some great tracks in it. But I think that pure Little Feat. I mean, we're getting a bit nerdy about things here, but for pure Little Feat.
That's allowed. I think it's allowed.
Well, that would be my choice. But Lowell George was such a superb guitar player. His slide guitar player. I mean, Ry Cooder's great. Actually, Joe Walsh is a really fantastic slide guitar player. Yeah. George Harrison knew a trick or two, but Lowell George was head and shoulders above any of those.
I don't know whether I've asked you this before. Have you ever seen the where he's interviewed on German television?
Yeah. Where he puts a cigarette in his mouth the wrong way around.
Yes, but he plays with a socket, doesn't he?
Yeah, from a Sears and Roebuck socket.
And Roebuck socket. Yeah. And the German interviewer has got no idea what's going on.
He hasn't a clue what's going on,
and he's just.
Yeah. Well, anybody who's into Lowell George Little Feat, go and check that out. It's on YouTube, widely available on YouTube.
It is brilliant.
It's how Lowell George explains how to play slide guitar and how not to smoke a cigarette.
and then they do China White.
They do China White,
which is beautiful. I think that's the other thing is that we were talking earlier on before we started recording about structures in songs, and quite often the structures of Little Feat songs are very, very strange.
Oh yeah. No, two verses are not alike. Same two verses.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, name any of them really. I do a version of Trouble. You yelled "Hey" when your car wouldn't start. You got real nervous, and the two verses are not the same in that. And like so many of Lowell George's songs, they just sort of follow a trajectory where he wants to go.
Stream of consciousness,
which is fine by me.
Yeah. Great. So, do you find that? When you're writing, I mean, the song about Paris doesn't Do you find that because you listen to a lot of American music, Little Feat, etc., you find that you kind of write in an American vernacular?
I certainly did. Yeah, when I was at university, after I've finished university, I spent about 10 years trying to make a go of it, and yeah, we were very heavily influenced by Steely Dan, Little Feat, Steve Miller Band.
Yeah.
But we were also quite into Frank Zappa, so we tried sort of vaguely wacky things as well. But yeah, much more influenced by American music than by music in the UK. I don't know why that should be. I mean, I was thinking about the Beatles, because the Beatles. I was thinking the analogy which came to my head was the Beatles, a bit like your mum and dad. They are so part of your DNA, or certainly in my case, they're so part of your DNA that you just almost took them for granted as being the best, the most brilliant thing.
It was never questioned.
No, it was never questioned. And in fact, I didn't learn to play many Beatles songs. I mean, some of the later stuff you could really not do on a guitar because it depended so much on the studio production. And I think everybody learned Norwegian Wood because that was the most folky thing they did. And perhaps Here, There, and Everywhere.
Here, There, and Everywhere, yeah.
Which is an absolutely beautiful song. Yeah. But you sort of almost, like I say, took them for granted, like you take your mum and your dad.
Yeah, I think you're
right.
right.
To bits, and you kind of say, you put pigeonhole them there and say, yeah, they're always there. Always go back to them, which I do, and I listen to Abbey Road, for example, and it just knocks me out still. But it was definitely American music that influenced us at the time.
Yeah.
But when I stopped playing in bands, the other thing is, I think Duke Ellington said that, is that you tend to write for your band members, so that the music you write is what you can hear your band playing. And so the bands that I was in tended to have, with the songs that I wrote for the band, tended to be those that I thought we could play well and we could do well. And I think that's the proof of that, if it needs proving, is that when I stopped playing in bands, I started writing folk songs, more acoustic based music, because I was the only one who was going to be playing it.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like a needs must thing, isn't it?
So,
I know that when for 7 years we lived in Italy, and I was predominantly playing it with a band, and then when I came back here, a lot of the people I knew had either packed it in, moved away, or died, or whatever. And so I went out and spent some money on the tailor, and started writing acoustic songs. I'd always played acoustic guitar, but it wasn't my sort of go-to instrument, really. So yeah, there is an element to that. So what's the next song going to be then?
Well, talking about writing acoustic songs, I mean, I do love folk music. Folk music, not all folk music. I'm not so keen on the finger in the ears. I do like.
Is it only people of our age who use that expression?
I have no idea. You have to ask the audience.
Because I frequently use it myself, and I know. And again, I think it's one of those things that certain people will say, "What the hell are they talking about?"
Yeah, well, it's a cappella is perhaps the polite expression that you could use to describe it. But yeah, I mean, some folk music, and it's each their own. It just wasn't my own.
No, not me.
So I did prefer people like Roy Harper was one all day. He wasn't. He was beyond folk, really. Tom Paxton, Dick Gaughan was one of my favourite folk singers. You don't know Dick Gaughan? He's a Scottish folk singer, musician, who is a wonderful, wonderful guitar player. He's got a great voice. And there's an album of his. Check it out, everybody. It's called "Handful of Dirt," but it's absolutely superb. Some fantastic songs on. The playing, as I say, is amazing, and it's mostly just him on the guitar. John Martin.
I was about to say, what about John Martin?
Yeah, well, you couldn't not mention him, really. I mean, the thing about John Martin that everybody's got is is hitting the strings. May You Never was a standby, of course. So John Martin, he was a complicated character, but there's an amazing clip of one of the most beautiful of his songs. It's called "Couldn't Love You More," and there's an amazing clip on YouTube of him introducing it. He's a complete and utter idiot the way he introduces it. And then he actually starts playing it, and it's like the whole thing goes 180, and you have this beautiful singer.
Well, he was immensely talented, but completely off his trolley most of the time. In fairness, if it was either alcohol or various substances. I'm not sure I'd have liked him as a person. I never met him, but I saw him loads of times.
No, there's a guy in our songwriting group we might talk about a bit later who used to do a lot of touring, and he toured with John Martin in support, and he said loved his music, but very, very challenging character. So because it is just me with the guitar, I'm going to sing one of my more folk or acoustic oriented songs, which is a story, an invented story about a sailor who falls in love when he really shouldn't have. This one's called Lost at Sea. I was working for the Navy, had no regrets about leaving behind my hometown, my close friends, my family. We pulled into old Marseille on shore leave with a whole month's pay. I swaggered all along the quay, arm in arm with them jolly tars. Pausing bar to bar, I thought the night would never end. When I saw stars, they were not in the skies. The stars, my love, were in your eyes, oh Christy. Run away with me, steal my life, oh Christy. Run away with me. I awoke next morning, hammers in my head, and you by my side, in a place I did not recognize. I said to you, I cannot stay. You said your ship has long since sailed away. You pushed it out to sea the night you docked in Marseille. Running through the night, I prayed the days would never end. When I held you in my arms, I felt there was no need to pretend, oh Christy. Run away with me, steal my life, oh Christy. Run away with me. Cornered in a lonely station, waiting room I went with no resistance, gazing through your eyes, they say with me, across this distance. Judges are not known for sympathy towards lovers who get lost at sea. This one was no exception. I sit here, serve out my sentence. Sometimes when at night I wake and looking through my bars, I see stars, they are not in the skies. The stars, my love, they're in your eyes, oh Christy. Run away with me, steal my life. Christy. Run away with me. Steal my life, oh Christy.
Nice. That guitar sounds beautiful for that sort of. It just projects, doesn't it?
It is an amazing guitar. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Happy with it. Yeah.
You mentioned a songwriting group. Do you? I mean, how does that function for you? Do you?
Well, it was. I think it was in January, which was a great time of the year for something new to sort of happen, and particularly as it became quite all-consuming. But
yeah.
So it was started by somebody called Saskia Griffith-Orr, who is a singer-songwriter. But she had noticed at all her gigs that most of the audience were getting on in years, shall we say, even though she's only in her 20s herself. Most of the people who are listening to her songs or coming to her gigs had the odd grey hair, let's put it that way. And she discovered from talking to them, a lot of them were actually musicians themselves. And so she came up with the idea of setting a songwriting competition called Talent is Timeless. The implication being that, you don't have to be in your 20s to be able to write songs, perform songs, or whatever. And so word got out. She started a Facebook page. The first prize was a recording session in Abbey Road, plus a guitar, some guitar, whose name I've forgotten, whose brand I've forgotten, but decent prizes, enough to whet the appetite. Let's put it that way. And it turned out that about 1,000 people over the age of 50 were not only submitting one song as their entry to the competition, but because they were encouraged to do so, posting a load of other stuff that they'd written as well. So I reckon on a rough count, if everybody posted 5 songs on average, you got 5,000 songs, all of which had been composed by people in their over 50s in the UK, let alone anywhere else in the world. And so you can imagine the number of songs that there were on the Facebook page that you could listen to. I mean, it's impossible to listen to all of them.
I thought it was more like 1,300 or 1,400 people.
I think it was over 1,000. Yeah,
well over 1,000. Yeah.
I think in the end, I think it was just over 1,200 actually in the end, because there were 1,200 entries to the competition, and there could only be one winner, obviously, and it was very well won by somebody called Fergus O'Neill. Who I think you've had on.
Fergus is an interesting guy.
Yeah.
Because he comes to songwriting very much from a sort of background of almost like therapy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because he's a psychologist. But so in terms of that, I mean, have you developed anything out of that for yourself, like a smaller unit of people that you meet up with regularly, or?
Yes. I mean, I got to know several people quite well through the group, and through particularly the ones, I suppose it stands to reason, but particularly the ones whose music I liked a lot. So I sort of got to know them, and I'm still in touch with them, and we still exchange our songs from time to time, and put ideas up and say, what do you think of this? Do you think it's any good? Blah blah blah.
Have you done any collaboration?
No, that was one of the things that. One of the good things about the Talent is Timeless contest was that every Friday night for the duration, which I think about 6 weeks, can't have been every Friday because I don't think there are that many sessions, but at 5 o'clock on Friday, Saskia would interview somebody, another songwriter or a music producer or an engineer or whatever it might be. And so many of them said, you've got to collaborate. It's just such a great way of writing material. And apart from when I was in a band, when I'd sort of collaborate with the other musicians, certainly on the arrangements, if not the writing, I have never collaborated with anybody. And I'm not alone. A lot of the other musicians.
I was going to say that. I mean, I've collaborated with, because that sort of developing out of that. I can't think how it happened, but somebody, it must have been one of the people that she interviewed, was something to do with this thing called the Songwriting Academy, and I did a course with them a few weeks ago, which was interesting, and that was all about working in groups. And I've prior to that, I've tried to collaborate with people, but found that people were kind of reticent to actually put something out there and say, look, what can we do with this? Because they wanted to keep good ideas for themselves, sort of thing, and therefore that makes you reticent as well.
Yeah,
and I'd found that. Whereas in this circumstance, basically we were given a track with some, a selection of 6 tracks, which all had some chord sequence on it, and then we were given the brief to write something over that, writing a melody and then writing the lyrics and developing the story to it. And it's quite an interesting exercise. In fact, I'm still doing it at the moment with a one group, which is a female singer from Scotland, a Russian musician who lives in Paris, and a guy called David who lives in Prague. So I don't know what'll come of it, but we did something for the as part of the exercise, and it sounded good. It was completely out of my safety zone. It was my comfort zone.
Yeah.
It was very much a sort of popular song, and had that sort of structure that went verse, pre-chorus, chorus, that type of structure. And I mean, I don't honestly think I'd ever thought about of what a pre-chorus was before that.
I think we used to call it a bridge, didn't we?
Well, no, the bridge is slightly different. A bridge is something else again. A bridge is something with the idea behind the bridge being it's like a sort of it's a departure from the thread. But the pre-chorus is like a little bit that anticipates the chorus and starts to kind of lift up the emotional tone of it, if you like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite an interesting exercise, and there were a couple of people I got on well with, so I'm looking to try and continue that route. But I have to say it would be a lot easier to do it sitting in the same room with people rather than trying to do it for the Zoom call.
Yes. Yeah. I was reading about a book about how the Beatles wrote their songs. It's a very self-serving book by somebody called Hunter Davis.
Oh yeah.
But it is quite interesting in the sense that you did get the inside track on what was going on with the Beatles when they were together, and it was quite interesting how he described the songwriting session, how they wrote with a little help from my friends.
All right.
In some garret that Paul McCartney was living in at the time. He and John Lennon were up there, and he describes how they came up with the lyrics and how they rejected certain lyrics and left gaps where gaps couldn't be filled.
Yes.
And Ringo dutifully filled them in
Right.
when they came to record it. So it was collaborations are great, but interesting that you put yourself in a situation where you collaborate rather than find yourself in a situation where you collaborate.
Yes.
That's the interesting thing, because they were mates, weren't they? Lennon and McCartney,
Yes.
they were mates, and they it was like breathing to them that they should get together and write songs. Whereas if you pays your money and you go on a songwriting course which involves collaborations, there's an element
You're
of
put in the same
artificial.
room.
It's slightly artificial, isn't it? But it needn't be a bad thing, I don't suppose. Never having done it, but
well, it was like the obvious expression was part of the course. It was what the whole thing was about, was attempting it. But I also got the impression from the people who were mentors on the course that they were saying that this is a very normal thing these days. I mean, particularly in sort of popular music, where people are, you have people who are top liners whose sole role is to come out with a melody, and then you'll have lyric writers, and to the extent where one of them was saying that if there are 7 people in the room working on the song, they each get a 7th share of it.
Yeah.
And this is agreed, and to the extent where beyond that because that's the approach, they won't allow managers. They won't allow an artist's manager to be in the room. Yeah. Because otherwise the manager can. Well, I was there as well.
Yeah.
So
I changed but to and I demand.
But it doesn't even matter. You don't even have to have said anything. This is the deal, apparently. Yeah. It's just because you're there. So it was also saying that in certain instances, when they had very young artists who were minors, they had it written into the pre-contract that the parents weren't allowed to be in there unless they agreed to say that they would waive all rights to being a part of the songwriting.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's
a worrisome thing, isn't it? It's a worrisome thing.
It's a very it's a strange world to think of, like 9 people working together on a song.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the, I mean, occasionally I dip into what you might call contemporary music, and I was listening to an album by Alicia Keys recently, her latest album. And look at the credits for that. You know, you got 10 people credited with the songwriter. Not literally 10, but certainly more than Alicia Keys and the and the guitarist, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And there'll be the producer and the engineer and the top line or whatever. I mean, I know there were, you know, in terms of like the Great American Songbook, I mean, many of them were written in duos.
Yes.
But even some of, I think that Every Time We Say Goodbye, I Cry a Little, I think that was written by 6 people.
What was it? I just thought it was Cole Porter.
I think, no, was it that one? Was that Cole Porter? I can't remember. There's certainly one of the big sort of Ella Fitzgerald type ballads was written by 5 or 6 people. It's the collaboration thing. I think is something that has to be managed quite carefully these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think you're also right in a sense. There's a difference between coming together and hey, let's have a go at this with somebody that you already know and just being plonked in a room with somebody you've never met before.
Yeah.
But, So, so what's the next song then?
I have a quick guitar change because this one is tuned to a chord. This is tuned to it's E. It's tuned to E.
Right.
Which is just the same as tuning it to D, which is what most people do. They drop the chord to D, but I change it up to E because it fits the melody better.
Okay.
And it may be because I live in near Oxford, which is about as far away from the sea as you can possibly get. But I've got a bolt hole in Pembrokeshire, West Wales.
Oh, right.
Which overlooks the sea, and I just love the sea.
We were down that neck of the woods only 3 weeks ago, and in Aberystwyth.
Oh yeah.
And there were 70-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, it can be. Can be elemental. Yeah. But I don't know. I find it. Apart from loving the views of the sea, and even when it's rough, when the bad, it's still really exciting. And I do get a real charge from going down there. And I've written and or started many songs down there in my bolt hole, which in fact is just a caravan on a cliff top. It's what we call a static.
A static.
And,
so where is it exactly?
Just near St David's.
Right. Okay. My family, my mother's family, are from that neck of the woods.
Right.
So I know that area reasonably well.
So I wrote this song when I was down there, or started when I was down there, and it's called "Once a Pilot," which is just nicked from one of the lines of the songs. But it's about just loving being out in the world, but enjoying the journey home. So it's called "Once a Pilot." I think it's got a bit of reincarnation. I've got this sort of strong feeling that I was a pilot in the world in the Second World War. Flew Spitfires. It could be just my romantic side getting the better of it. But anyway, this is called "Once a Pilot." Ink black, purple, the sea at night, bringing my boat home by starlight. And will the breakers take us on the next high tide? Many's the night since I slept by your side. I love the ocean, feel the motion of the water as I roam. But tonight I'm coming, I'm bringing my boat home. I'm coming home. And once a pilot, I felt the rush of sudden air. I heard the silence from my engine. I fell through clouds, it was a tug of silk that held me there. Floating across fields in my suspension. So let them break off. I love to take off. I love the climbing to the sun. But tonight I'm flying my plane home. I'm a restless sailor on a raging sea, aviator in turbulent skies. Keep your heart open for me. I'll keep my eyes for your eyes, spinning horizons, endless days, broken patterns of sleep, and a bird that prays on a beat of a wing turns to say, I'm flying your way. I love the ocean, feel the motion of the water as I roam. But tonight I'm coming, I'm bringing my boat home. Coming home.
Great. Yeah. I love that you conclude that where it sort of hangs.
Well, this one?
No, the just the feel of the song.
Oh, right, I see what you mean.
So it's like that like the gliding into dock sort of thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, maybe I hadn't thought of it like that, but it's
it has that feel to it.
Yeah, it's funny how people interpret.
Well, yeah, I mean it's
not other people's songs, but their own songs.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day actually. I'm quite well into photography. I used to teach photography and stuff, and just listening to people talking about photography sometimes just makes me cringe. Right. And it's because of that interpretation, and I think it was Joel Meyerowitz, one of the great street photographers, who whenever he had an exhibition, people would say, well, what I see in this is a deep, and he used to go, oh, that's very interesting, and leave it at that. He would never enter into any discussion of what people saw in it, because he didn't really believe in that thought process. As far as he was going to, he'd take the photograph, and whatever you take out of it is fine. You know, and that's, which is
well, it's like Bob Dylan. I mean, whenever people ask Bob Dylan what his songs meant, he says, "Well, they mean whatever you want them to mean."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What are they about? About 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, have you got any plans for recording, more writing?
It's really interesting since I was thinking about, we're going back to what we were saying about writing for whatever musical situation you find yourself in.
Yeah.
So if you're in a band, you write for the band. If you're not in a band, you write for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm in this interesting halfway house where I started wanting to record my back catalogue, if you like. So I've never had a recording contract. I've never had a recording. Yeah, I've worked in studios. I've got recordings of old songs. Yeah. Old recordings of songs that I've written and played with bands and played myself. But I've never been really happy with them.
Mm.
So I started experimenting with home recording. So I've got garage band, as the Americans call it. I call it garage band
It's
myself.
garage band.
And so I've been learning how to play around with GarageBand. And what is interesting, I started wanting to record all my songs acoustically.
Yeah.
But it used to really annoy me how out of time I played and how out of tune I played.
Yeah.
Or sang. And so in an attempt to play in time, I'd set a click track.
Yeah.
And I found the click track was almost always intruding on the feel of the song.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, you've got all these loops pre-recorded in GarageBand, so let's try and find what a drummer might play, and through experiment and perseverance, I've recorded a lot of songs using a drum track, which is akin to what the feel of the song in my mind should be. So I'm now my own one-piece band through the joys of GarageBand. Yeah. A lot of the songs that I've recorded recently have been with certainly acoustic guitar, vocals obviously, but also I put on some electric guitar, bass guitar. I've got a bass guitar which I put on, and playing around with the drums. So I come out with a sort of full-blown band recording of the songs, which is not how I was intended to start. But now I'm writing more for a band. So the last 2 or 3 songs I've written, I probably could play them just on an acoustic guitar. But the way I hear them and the way they've been recorded is with a band treatment.
The thing you said about working with a click track, about 3 years ago, I did an album and I worked with a producer for the first time. And what we did was that he and I would sit in the studio with an acoustic guitar each. And obviously we'd been through the songs before, but we'd just like sit there and just try and just play the song through, the two of us, just to get the actual tempo exactly what we wanted, right? And also to get the feel of it right. And whilst we were doing this, Shayna, the engineer, was basically assembling a kind of rhythm track behind it with sort of random percussion instruments. So I didn't record anything to a click track, and we didn't put the drummer. The drummer was Paul Burgess, who was a phenomenal drummer. He's been 10cc's drummer since the 70s, and he played with all sorts of people. But he didn't start the session off. So what we would do is we'd record the first guide track with acoustic guitar to this percussion track, and then we built everything up from that.
Yeah,
which was a way I'd never worked before, but it worked really, really well.
Yeah, because the drummer will have captured the feel that you were giving the song
exactly
just by playing it acoustically, which it's so easy to lose. It's so easy to lose.
Absolutely.
And my wife, who's my greatest fan and my sternest critic, when I play a recording of a song, she said, "Well, that's not how you wrote it. You've ruined it." Usually, she usually says you've ruined it. I don't think I have, but that's what she said. But it's like
you have to be cruel. You have to be cruel to be kind. I think
you do. But I mean, who's wrote a song, who's ever written a song that ends up in the same way that it was written? I mean, it just doesn't seem to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't. So. Yeah, and I have to say that I agree with you entirely, because I mean, I've in the last 4 years I've recorded 4 CDs, and though I have the equipment to do it at home, I've always gone into a studio and done it.
Yeah.
To have some other ears available to me.
Yes.
And I think that makes a hell of a difference, because the difficulty is, if you've just got it at home, is that you can end up fettling with a track and actually crippling it completely.
Yes. Well, partly through over listening and overhearing, but also through not really understanding what does that compression knob actually do.
Yeah.
Whereas an engineer in the studio will not only have a compression system which is a damn sight better than what you get on GarageBand.
Yeah.
But he'll also know how to use it.
Didn't know what it's for. Yes, exactly.
And how much to use and when to use it. So
yeah.
I mean, and that is my intention is to get the songs down as best I can, but then to take them to my mate Nick's studio and record them properly. So whether that's with a band, I don't know. I know a lot of musicians, but yeah. We should have to see. Something for the future, something to look forward to.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I believe you have one more song for us.
Well, I'm gonna completely contrary style to the ones I've been playing. It would be almost negligent, if not criminal, of me not to mention the fact that I'm a member of a band called. Can you see that?
Oh, I can't read it. What's it say? Oh, yes. What's it say?
It's introducing the Prairie Clams.
The Prairie Clams.
Okay, so the Prairie Clams is my country western band. Now, I've got an old friend from way back when, who is a phenomenal guitarist. His name is Johnny Hinks. He's been around Oxford for years and years, and he's a street musician, and
right.
It's just beautiful. I mean, he'll sit there and play a solo version on the guitar of "Here Comes the Sun" or "Begin the Begin" or "Every Time We Say Goodbye." He's a beautiful, beautiful guitarist. But he posted a message on Facebook about 2.5 years ago saying, "I'm going to start a country and western band. Anybody interested?"
Right.
And I was about to retire from my job, and I was thinking this was going to be an opportunity to get him back into music. Now, I'm not a country musician, but we formed this band called the Prairie Clams, and we made an album, the album I've just shown you, which we finished. We finished mastering it in February last year, February 2020, with the intent of going out and promoting the album and doing lots of gigs. That didn't quite work out for various reasons.
You and a lot of others.
Yeah. But we do a lot of the classics, so Honky Tonk Merry-Go-Round, Your Cheating Heart. Yeah. We do a great version of Route 66, so it's not pure country; it's sort of country come Americana. It's classic, country and Americana stuff. And I thought I'd So we when we finished the album, we were talking about moving on to the next bunch of songs, and we thought we'd start writing a few of our own. Which wasn't the original idea, but then if you work with Johnny Hinks, you've got to get used to things changing like the wind, really. Whilst I was in the style of country, I started writing a few songs, and I thought I'd sing you this one to finish off with. It's called. It's only a country song can be called. I'm Still in Love with You. Don't take it personally, Rowland. Tell me this isn't a goodbye. I'm on my knees and I'm so blue. Don't let me go. I'm so sorry, you know. And darling, I'm still in love with you. Nobody said this would be easy. I guess I could have tried some more. But it's a fact that when you're pleasing yourself, there's someone else who isn't sure. Tell me this isn't a goodbye. I'm on my knees and I'm so blue. Don't let me go. I'm so sorry, you know. And darling, I'm still in love with you. Remember them nights in the garden, too hot for us to sleep inside. We took each other to the stars on the horizon. It wasn't like we even tried. Tell me this isn't a goodbye. I'm on my knees and I'm so blue. Don't let me go. I'm so sorry, you know. And darling, I'm still in love. Darling, I'm still in love. Darling, I'm still in love with you.
A proper country song, love it.
Well, I think that's a compliment. That is a compliment.
It's brilliant.
Take it.
This we went to Nashville a couple of years ago, and we got there, and I said to Leslie, I can't believe that people wear cowboy hats here with no sense of irony. And it's also, the pickup trucks with the 12-bore shotgun, pump action shotguns in the back. It's brilliant. Have you ever been?
Just like the movies. I've never been in Nashville. No, I've been in New York. So the only place in the States I've been is New York.
Well, we were in the States for a month, and we went to New York and Nashville and Memphis and Clarksdale, and it was just extraordinary. But the first night we arrived in Nashville, we walked down Broadway, and you just cannot move for live music. Mm. The first bar we went into was called the Orchid Room, I think it's called. And you go in, and you're walking through the front door here, and the stage is on your right here, facing that way. So you virtually enter on the stage, and then you go to the back of the room through like 185 people, and you go up a few steps, and then there's like a mezzanine floor with another band playing. And then you got another one, and there's another band playing. And then on the roof, there's a fourth band playing, like duos and stuff. And everywhere, it's just extraordinary. Yeah. And some great musicians. And they were lovely. And I played every day, basically. I sat in with somebody, sometimes twice. And they were just lovely people. They were just, it was a bit of a shock to the system at first, because it is, just like the movie sort of thing. Yeah. But it was a great experience. So,
well, it's on the bucket list, I must say. But,
we'd planned to go back. Was it last year we were going to go? What year were you now? 21. Yeah, it was last year we were going to go back to Chicago, back to the States, go to Chicago, and then down to Nashville again, because Nashville was a knockout. Really was. Yeah, I loved it. So, Hugh, it's been lovely. Delightful to see you again, mate.
Yeah, lovely to chat. Nice to see you too. Yeah.
Yeah, good to have a chat and listen to some of your songs.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. I think we have a lot of similar history.
We're of that age, Rowland. It would be odd if we didn't, really, I suppose.
Well, I don't know. We're slightly not mainstream. The sort of the Little Feat thing is a little bit. A little bit left field.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll stick to a little bit left field, I think.
Yeah, I can live with that. I think. Yeah, I'll take that.
With that, Don Van Vliet. Who else did we get? John Martin.
I'll tell you who we didn't mention. That's Ricky Lee Jones, who's another one of my favourites. Who's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, wore a couple of her albums out, I must say. And James Taylor. Where do you stop? Where do you stop? He's one of the most underrated guitarists. I don't know if he's underrated, but he's one of the greatest guitarists. Acoustic guitarist.
I think he is underrated, to be honest.
Yeah. And talk about Blue again. He was on Blue, wasn't he? He played quite a lot of stuff on Blue, which is very subtle and very effective.
There was a documentary on last Friday on Radio 4 about the album.
I heard it. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
I was a little disappointed. I thought there were too many B-list celebs muttering about it. I wanted to hear more about the songs and the lyrics and the perhaps even the chords, the guitar tuning she was using. But it was
it was nice to hear. But we were driving down to Bristol at the time. We were listening to it, and I felt the same. It was lacking something. It was nice for it, for the album to be honoured.
Absolutely, yeah.
But at the same time, it would have been more to hear. It was all to do with why she wrote it rather than what she was writing, I think.
Yes, which maybe a more wider interest perhaps than nerdy musicians.
Than our nerdy musicians. what strings was she using? all that stuff. Yeah. Oh, I love it. In fact, there was a great story. I was watching something on Sky Arts, which was an interview with Jimmy Webb, and he was talking about By the Time We Get to Phoenix, and he was saying that he said, you know, it's a song, he said, and I still get people come up to me after shows and say, well, you know, by the time I got to Phoenix, she'd be right. But then by the time I got to so and so, you wouldn't do it in that space of time. You know, it would take you longer than that. And he said, it's not a roadmap, for God's sake. And people were taking it apart literally as if it was, you know, an itinerary, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah,
but anyway, I think we could chat all evening about this.
I'm sure we could, yeah.
Absolute pleasure, mate. And,
well, thank you very much for having me on again. It's been a pleasure to see you and to wheel out a few of the old numbers, Yeah,
well, chew the fat, as they say. So let's keep in touch and
definitely
keep talking music. Okay.
Definitely.
Nice
Good to see you, Ron.
Cheers,
I'll line up.
Cheers.
Bye.
Oh, that was great. I enjoyed that. We have we did have a bit of a chat before. In fact, Hugh appeared on one of the sort of the round table shows that I did a while ago, and we discovered we had a lot in common in terms of people that we liked. So that's it for this week. Now, next week, Hugh was talking about the Talent is Timeless organisation, and next week we've got somebody else on from that, a lady called Trudy Brunskill, who writes what to me sound very Joni Mitchell influenced songs, I have to say, and just seems to be prolific in the frequency with which she writes these things. I don't know whether she's got this massive store cupboard of information, but she seems to be putting new stuff out all the time. So I'm looking forward to that. So do come and join me. It'll be 6:30 GMT as usual, and in the meantime, look after yourselves and have fun.